Hello, guys. This is Al. I just came back from the clinic and I am dedicated to record a video for you regarding the residency. And today I wanted to actually talk again more about the Skype interview and then to tell you about some more experience that I had during my Skype interview. Basically, when you are in the medical school, they have couple kind of scenarios of interviewing people, which one of the interviewing style is the group or panel interview, and the other one is MMI or multiple mini interviews, which I'm going to break it down for you. The multiple mini interviews basically is you get a scenario from one of the faculty or group, and then basically they give you 2 minutes that talk about the subject, and when you 2 minutes to think about the subject, and they give you 5 to 8 minutes to discuss about your answer. Therefore, this kind of interview happened in one of the centers for me. One in a couple of them, there was two on an on-site interview and one on the Skype, the second round of Skype. That basically is not about like an academic or some of them the question. Like I remember that 4 questions. One of them was like two from the industry. One was from the con book about like a percentage dip dose for the different kind of beams, like a 10 MV, 50 MV, 18 or 25. Something like you can see it also in the ABR test. And then like a 2-3 different question that is not related to the medical physics. But the point is they wanted to see how is your approach is, how you can think of on your fingertip and answer those questions if it is not related to the realm of the interview and getting to the residency. Therefore, this is really important that you think about those things and you never get surprised if you know this kind of scenario, how you can deal with this kind of scenario. Therefore, this is one. And then the panel or group interview happened a couple of times to me. The two programs that definitely had this panel interview, there were 3 years. There were a group of the faculty, they had all research background, and each of them, they were interested to know who I am and how I can be a potential candidate to fit to the residency. Therefore, again, the important is that you can communicate. And in this scenario, most of the time, each faculty has one question for you. One of them, they're gonna ask you probably, what is your research background? Can you talk about your master degree or PhD, like a thesis? What was the challenge? How you come up with? And then again, you can talk about yourself as the first questions, and then how you think you can contribute to our group. Therefore, they're gonna ask you, each faculty, they're gonna ask you different kind of subject. One of the interview that I remember that basically it happens sometimes that they have like 80 to 90 applicants, and they wanted to actually kind of filter people, but they don't want it to lose all the people. Therefore, they bring people for 5 minutes of the Skype interview or 2 to 5 minutes. Therefore, they're gonna ask you 1 or 2 questions to understand how you're gonna answer. Therefore, one of the questions that actually surprised me, and I put it probably in one of the Skype one of the on-site interview was who impact the most during your career or in your life. Therefore, for me it was that shocking because the interview was like a 2 to 5 minutes. Therefore, I didn't have the time. Therefore, I made a mistake and example my own father, that with the hardship he got to the point that he wanted to be in his life. But I'm telling you, that was not a good example that you can make. Therefore, you can think of this thing in ahead of a time. For example, what professor or what clinician that you had in the medical physics field, or something that is really memorable, not preferably not in your family, somewhere in your career, research, industry, clinic, whatever. But something out of your family, I think, is the best that you can come up. And then I remember they asked me also in one of the interview on Skype about like the IMRT kind of scenario, that we had this IMRT specific patient QA for the night. You were doing the QA, whatever you did the setup, everything that you trying to do it was failed. You cannot hold on any of physicists. You're alone, and the patient has tomorrow, treatment. What are you gonna do? Therefore, again, this kind of scenario is very important because that shows that how much you did practice of the clinic and how much they wanted to be tough on you. Therefore, that is like put me in the hassle. I answered the question conservatively, do the things that happen and the experience that I got. But sometimes, this kind of scenario, like because this is a clinical situation question, and you don't want it to say something that is off and makes everything under the question that, oh, the things that you mentioned in your resume is not really relevant because you couldn't put it in a nice way to explain it, and you were talking off completely. Therefore, you wanted to also make sure that this thing doesn't happen. Another thing that I wanted to ask, which is really valuable and is kind of niche that helps you to get on-site interview, is the thank you letter. But the important thing is you should know, you should write a thank you letter very nicely in a way that you can ask a question. For example, like I'm saying from my own experience, I think, what do you think is going to be the character of the best candidate that is going to match and you're going to rely on that residence during the 2 or 3 years of the residency? Therefore, you ask them in ahead of a time that what you think that person should be, how he should behave, how she should communicate with the people. Therefore, in this way, you get an idea. And then later on, when you finish your Skype interview and you let that one day passes, you don't write right away, but you write it and tailor your thank you letter. Don't go to the internet and find the generic one. Oh, thank you for the interview and thank you learning about the position. It's always good to tailor your even thank you letter to something that is they mention, like, oh, you mentioned the person that really you want is a person that can get along with everybody, communicate well, and then have the work ethic, and then work according to what you think it should be done and not as an order, or whatever you think is the best that they mention, because each person or each institute is different and they're going to answer you. Therefore, you put them in a nice paragraph or 2 paragraphs and say, I took it to my heart and this is the way that doing, and then you can rephrase it from your own character. I think with this experience that I had in the clinic, that I handled this way, I can say that I'm a person that get along, I can meet the deadline. Therefore, you make an example, bring the story, and in the story you tell, okay, this is what you want, and this is how in the past I handled the situation. This way, I'm telling you honestly, out of the 10 email thank you letter that I sent, I can tell you 8 of them had a good answer and they invited me for the on-site interview. Therefore, this thank you letter, not in a generic one, really can be very helpful. I wanted to end this video with saying thank you for watching my videos, and please subscribe for the channel, give thumbs up, and write the comment that we can communicate. And I wish you a wonderful evening and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.